Welcome to Elevate Your Life and Soul. I'm your host, Marla Kennedy, life coach, mama, and spiritual soul seeker. Each week, this podcast will bring you interviews, stories, and mentoring so you can truly know your value, know your worth, and elevate all areas of your life. Let's rise together. Welcome to today's show. So today I am interviewing Salayeh El'Amor, and she is the founder and coach of the Life Mastery Method. Salayeh is a trained social worker, and she's trained to support people in becoming self-determined, building their emotional intelligence so they can self-actualise and self-reflect to be in control of their life. And she learnt the art of forgiveness, compassion, and resilience at a very young age due to childhood trauma and continuing toxic relationships throughout her life. She's been on a self-development journey for over 20 years and continues to train in trauma. She's determined to help people face off with themselves and find personal freedom so they can live life powerfully on their terms. So welcome, Salayeh. And I'd love for you to let me know how I went with that introduction, if there's anything I missed or you'd like to add.
Hi Marla, how you going? No, that's about it really. I suppose, I'm here to ignite and inspire people's truth. And what you said then is kind of perfect for,
Amazing.
a little part of what we're doing.
Yeah. And I always like to start with one little question. It's just how I just love this question. So how do you start your day?
Okay, so I've got kids, so I try to I try to work around this. And I think, the one thing that's really worked for me in the last year or so is the 5-second rule. So I'll wake up and I will count to 5 and I will get out of bed, count to 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I saw Mel Robbins do this and I watched her and I went, okay, I'm going to try this. And so that's how I usually start my day. I wake up, 5-second rule, get out of bed. We'll have a drink of water.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually like to try and get at least 20 minutes of exercise. And being a single parent, my kids are at home. So usually I will go for a run.
Mm-hmm.
There's a park right across the road from me. Go for a run and do some skipping, some push-ups and sit-ups outside. And then
Amazing.
I come in and do some weights for about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, such a great energizing way to start your day. That is
and I try to do it at least 4 to 5 times a week. And then a couple of days a week I go to Bikram yoga. So I can usually start a bit later.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
And then after that, I will come in, have a quick shower, and then I will meditate. I usually don't really look at my phone for the first 45 minutes. I'll meditate for about 20 minutes every morning, and I also meditate at night. But in the morning, meditation, and then I give myself about 20 minutes of something that I'm doing for myself, as in paperwork, posts.
Yeah. And what is your mission?
I have a few missions, and I think it is to ignite and inspire people's truth, for them to realize that they're not their trauma or their adversity or their addictions, that there's so much more than that they can truly be the author of their life. And, I feel a lot of us are feeling unconscious feelings of shame and guilt, and we kind of hide. And I really want to inspire people just to live their truth. And,
I totally feel that too. I'm the same with my mission has really evolved into helping people find their voice. And that's really about just giving yourself permission to accept who you are and be that person, fully, without worrying about people pleasing and just letting that stuff go and trusting yourself, I really relate to that. And what compelled you to become a coach?
So I experienced, as you said earlier on, I experienced sort of multiple traumas, and they started up from a very young age. And I've always been a very deep feeling person. And going throughout my life doing self-development and personal development and mindfulness techniques and really the self-discovery of myself, the more the traumas I experienced kind of took me on this really deep inner journey, and learning about meditation, being a nerd, I read so much, and learning about self-development and personal growth. This pushed me into being a social worker because, you know, my one other mission is to set up rehabilitation centers for trafficked children. So I've always had this area and care around trauma. And so this put me sort of going through to becoming a social worker. And then from a social worker, I just realized I wanted to do my own thing and be more one-on-one. Social work the process can be quite a long process. So I think with coaching, when you're working with someone and you're working with life-changing, like instant changes to their life, you know, and progress into doing consistent changes to a person's life. So, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. And what hurdles have you faced and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, a fair few. As I said, from trauma, I think you learn so much from experiencing trauma, and the different levels of trauma that I experienced from childhood to adulthood took me on a self-destructive journey, you know, where sort of using too many vices and not looking after myself, and not, you know, attracting all the wrong experiences and people in my life. So this has been a lifelong journey. This has been a journey from a very young age, even up to now. I believe I'm always learning, always evolving, and I've overcome them by curiosity and inquisitiveness about myself and really facing off with myself. You know, this determined to self-reflect and self-actualize and really take a look at myself and be, I suppose, radically responsible. And this is like everything I was saying earlier on: personal development, personal growth, reading, taking a really deep look at yourself and your inner worth, you know, and how you feel about yourself, the self-love, the self-worth journey. And so mindfulness, reading, surrounding yourself with beautiful people like yourself, you know, that can raise your vibration and just keep you always evolving and always learning. So, and I would say the hurdles, I think we always go through hurdles. We're continually going through hurdles in our life, you know, and it's the journey of always learning, always evolving, always being curious, you know?
Yeah. And so how do you feel that feelings of shame and guilt keep us in a self-contained prison?
Personal experience would say, you know how you say about your voice, finding your voice? I really connect to that process, Marla. Like, it's something so powerful, because we lose, when we are feeling unconscious feelings of shame and guilt, we hide from life, you know, and we hide from people, our environment, we hide behind food and vices. We can lose our voice so that we feel we have no power. There are so many different areas that show us that we're still struggling with unconscious feelings of shame and guilt, and people pleasing, procrastination, not showing up, not using our voice powerfully and authentically. And all these little signs when we're working through our life and we're, you know, being the observer of our life, if we can see that we're behaving in any of these different areas, your voice, procrastination, people pleasing, hiding, vices, they're, like, for me, true signs that we're dealing with unconscious feelings of shame and guilt.
Do you think it's a common thing? Like,
I truly believe so many of us, like, I have to be really careful because statistically I wouldn't know, but I really truly believe so many of us in this world are harboring and holding unconscious feelings of shame and guilt. I mean, the
Mm.
world, even vices, addictions, we are numbing out and trying to control the pain we have inside. So we numb out with drugs so we don't actually get to feel emotions. And that's another thing with shame and guilt. We shut down, we wall up. We don't want
Yeah.
to,
And
yeah.
dare I say it, even little things that don't seem like an addiction, like coffee every day. I know I
Yeah.
could get shut down for
Just,
that one, but I mean, I used to be reliant on coffee,
yeah.
and I don't drink it now because I was so reliant on it. But could not. I would get angry without it.
Yeah, I don't drink coffee now either. And I stopped, gosh, it stopped about a year ago, maybe two
Mm,
years ago. I've got to figure out now.
yeah,
And yeah. And I realized, I remember when I was coming off the coffee, it was literally like detoxing the
yeah,
headaches and the grumpiness and the agitation. And so,
yeah.
and I'm loving not having anything like that now. I drink water. I drink just a lot of water and I
Mm.
don't need anything else now, and it's a great feeling.
Yeah,
But
I like other things. I probably have replaced it a bit with things like cacao and stuff like that. But
yeah, yeah.
um, I did notice because when I gave up coffee, I did it on the day I did this program called the Bridge Experience,
Yes.
and I was a like 4 cup a girl, 4 cup a day kind of girl, and so I had this like migraine kind of headache that I'd never experienced for the whole time I was in that program. 3 days. It was so intense. Yeah, it's amazing. It's
I
total
did.
detox.
Yeah, I did the bridge,
Yeah.
and it says on there, no alcohol, no coffee, no drugs, and but yeah, who doesn't love cacao? Yeah, I mean,
Mm,
listen, I do. I'm often at ecstatic dances or cacao ceremonies, and
yeah.
who doesn't? Such a
um, so what would you advice would you give to someone who like would want is wanting to shift shame?
um, it's a process, and I think you have to really be brave enough to show up, to be vulnerable and to be okay with being seen. Um, everyone experiences shame and guilt or the issues of procrastination or wanting to look good and not wanting to people please. So for me, it would be just being courageous and just making a decision to be seen. And as soon as you start making the decision that you don't want to hide anymore and you don't want to be the people pleaser, I believe there's like a voice inside of you, like, and it just
Mm,
gets louder and louder and louder. And no one can see shame or guilt, okay? No one can see it, only you can like almost hear it. And it gets
mm,
louder and the voice louder and louder. To, in the end, you've got nowhere to go but face off with whatever it is being suppressed from shame and guilt. You're suppressing something, it'll
mm,
have to come out in the end. So um,
mm,
just courageous and just surrendering, I think.
mm. And I'd like to backtrack a little bit. How would you define guilt and shame? Just because yeah, they are a little different.
Um, so guilt would be how you would, for me, if you explain guilt, would be how the procrastination that you're feeling, if you're a procrastinator and you're second guessing yourself, then that would be, for me, the procrastination, the people pleasing. That's how you. Sorry, give me a minute, Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's ringing me. So can you ask the question again, Marla?
How would you define guilt and shame?
Yeah, I guess I'm just going to try and figure out. Guilt is something that you. I just have to give me a minute, Marla, because that's a good one, yeah. Because it's kind of
Yeah, of course.
they interconnect, and I want to make sure that I say the right thing. They
Yeah.
interconnect and interrelate. So Yeah. So for me, guilt and shame would be showing up as in shame, you feel like you're in a self-contained prison. You don't
Mm,
want people to you don't want people to see you. You're hiding something.
mm,
You've got something inside you, like feelings or emotions that you don't want people to see. So you almost feel like you're in a self-contained prison.
mm,
And the feelings that you get from that shame are guilt. You then will people please or procrastinate. And
mm,
so they're two different things. The shame is how you are showing up and how you're hiding, and the guilt are the feelings that you're feeling from that hiding and
mm.
that not showing up.
Yeah. Could you have one without the other, or do you think they're quite really interconnected?
I think they're interconnected.
Yeah.
I think shame causes guilt. Yeah, so the
Mm-hmm.
shame you're feeling is then the reaction from that shame is feelings of guilt and feeling that you're not good enough, and feeling that you're not worthy and you don't love yourself. They cause all these different feelings and emotions and behaviors. And
Mm,
I really do like to say, like, it's like feeling you're in a self-contained prison, because you can't actually see these feelings. You could just feel them. And I think almost if you've anyone who's experienced it would understand, hear them, you know.
mm,
And when you say about your voice, that is a huge part of shame and guilt. Finding your voice,
mm.
finding your power in your voice, and the fact that you are worthy and you are valued and an intricate part of this society.
Yeah, and for so long I definitely felt so much of that stuff, and that like I wasn't owning who I was. In fact, I mean, even when I probably first connected with you, which was a
Gosh,
couple of years ago now, I guess, I was still this real little girl on some levels, and that was a- attributed to like those feelings, definitely. Yeah. So I mean, for me, it was really around, there was a lot of past stuff, of course, but then also my
yes,
skin,
yeah,
um, like the physical
yeah.
manifestation of that, there was so much shame around that. So, yeah,
And to
I
be
think,
seen and acknowledged, yeah, just to be seen.
mm, and I think so many people can really maybe not even realize what the core wound is for them. Do you know that to be true?
Um, I suppose if it depends on what you've experienced in life, doesn't
Mm,
it?
yeah.
If you've, really, if you've experienced um, a deep trauma, then there can be some denial. There will be some denial, but you will always have something. You'll always be aware that you've experienced something and you feel a little bit different.
Mm,
And so I feel I think you're all very aware of what's happened to you, and the hiding from what has happened to you is what
mm,
causes shame and guilt. Do they know it's shame and guilt? No, I truly,
mm,
like, when I when I discuss shame and guilt now, I think people still go, what do you mean shame and guilt? And then when I break it down into how you're feeling and how you're showing up, and example, procrastination, people pleasing, hiding, then they realize that, okay, I said those are the signs of shame and guilt. So I think
mm,
we know we're feeling this way, we just maybe don't know exactly what it is,
yeah.
exactly what those feelings are.
Yeah.
And even labeling shame and guilt, it seems, for me, it's like they're two concrete words. I have to be very careful how I use them, because it isn't just about shame and guilt, it's what what shame and guilt represents.
Mm,
It's
yeah. Um, and so what gosh, what do you like you talked about someone like advice and stuff to someone to shift shame. Um, and do you think just being aware of it and bringing awareness to it is useful?
it's an inner journey. And I think it's a surrendering that if things are not working out for you, and if you look at your life and you can see, you know, that you're attracting all the wrong people and experiences, then it's a good time and it's a good reflection and mirror back to you that you have to do the work and face off with yourself and really start to go inward and understand why these situations are happening. Am I going to say this is overnight? No, I think it takes years of dealing with unconscious feelings of shame and guilt. But it would be, you know, like working, doing personal development, working with coaches who can help you go inward and understand why you're behaving at certain situations and why you keep attracting these people, and you know, the deep inner journey, and finding mindfulness. And I say mindfulness broadly, but for me, you know, I've worked with plant medicines, I've worked with meditation, I've worked with breath work, I've worked in dance. There are so many things that I've done to go inward to really find myself and truly understand, okay, oh, I've done this and I've experienced that, and how does that make me feel? And what is coming up for me right now? And people pleasing was huge for me. I was, you know, constant people pleaser. And to simply, I remember just simply showing up on Facebook. That was also quite nervous for me, you know, because of the people pleaser. But then suddenly doing the work on yourself and surrounding yourself with conscious people and working with coaches and going inward and really so many different things you can do. Journaling, as I said, all the other modalities that you can do, and verbalizing and self-reflection. So that is little journeys. And the journey, every time you do and experience something, is to self-reflect and really listen to how that made you feel, what changes, what that brought up. You know, a lot of the work as coaches, you know, as a coach, we bring a lot of things up. You know, a lot of emotions come up. And so it's an ongoing journey. Truly, I believe it's never done. It's always an ongoing journey. And as long, I think you literally have to suddenly go, okay, that's it. Actually, no, this is not working for me anymore. My life is not working for me. And what am I going to do about it? And as much as we want to try and fix people, and you're always looking out there, it will always be the journey from in here. You have to go within and face off with, I like to say, face off with yourself.
Yeah. Do you believe people can be free from guilt and shame?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Because in the end, when you do the work on yourself and you really go inward and dig deep, you know, it's freedom. Am I totally there? Yeah, I would say I'm feeling so, I feel free, and I feel I've been kind of let out of a box, and I can express myself so easily now and really not care what people think, because I know myself, I know my integrity, I know my authenticity, and I feel it's fine. People will have an opinion, people will either like it or they won't, and that's okay. So, yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah, I love that. So, what makes you feel inspired or like your best self?
God, it's funny you just said people who are unapologetically themselves. Yeah, that's what I love. People who just go, nah, you know, I'm not going to hide, and I'm not going to allow you to judge me or put your perception on me. I'm just going to be me and do what I love. And like when I see somebody like living fully in themselves and expressing themselves and just unapologetic, I'm like, yeah. And even if I don't really resonate with what they're saying, if somebody is showing up powerfully, unapologetically, radically, I'm like, yeah, you've got my attention. I'm all for you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are you curious about right now?
I'm always curious. I'm always curious. So I'm a never-ending student. I'll always be learning. So as I said earlier on, I'm doing my master's at the moment in like creative arts therapies. So that's like counseling. Oh, it's setting my soul off. I'm loving it. So I've always been curious about different forms of trauma release and understanding trauma differently to just talk therapy. And so now, I've always been a very creative person. So the work that I'm doing now is, you know, bringing like dance and drama and artwork and writing and poetry and all expressive arts into trauma work. So I'm loving this, because one day I would love to have my own like trauma center where it's based around mindfulness and creativity. And because I truly believe, you know, when you're working with people who've experienced adversity, you can't just sit there and talk to them. It's somatic. You need to, you know, different forms of expressing. And even with children, you know, there's so many different ways of communicating and connecting with people who've experienced trauma or adversity. And I'm really loving that at the moment. I'm just so digging deep, and it's almost a part of me anyway. It seems so natural because it's who I am. But really digging deep on the beauty and the power and of all the different modalities that you can bring in to working with people.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about that.
Sounds so fun, and I love integrating stuff like body and stuff as well. And I think, you know, that's ontology, which is what I studied, is really about integrating body and language and emotions and stuff. And you mentioned children and stuff, and I often, when my little one gets upset and stuff, we often go into the body to shift emotions and release stuff. And he loves it. He ends up having so much fun doing it. He gets, you know, like.
And it's powerful as well, because it is that inner child, you know, really connecting. And, you know, a lot of people talk about inner child, but it really is about connecting with that inner child and being free and feeling that you can just express yourself and connect with that beautiful, creative, playful person inside of us. Because we're quite serious as adults, I suppose. As adults, we can get quite serious.
Yeah, we can get really serious. I lean on the serious side, so it's a big stretch for me to try and get into my playfulness. But when I do, it's so much fun. Yeah. And so you mentioned that you love to read, and I love to read. So what's your favorite book and why?
Yeah, I have got so many books. But I would say the one that sticks out for me still is Conversations with God. Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh.
Yes,
and you know the book? It's always stuck in my mind. I could connect to what he was saying, even the profoundness of, you know, for myself, I had like this massive experience about 8 years ago, and it really set me on the deep inner journey where it was brutal. I just facing off with myself time and time again. And I remember connecting to what he was saying. And, you know, I've definitely gone through times in my life going, why have I experienced so much? Why does this certain things keep happening? Or why has this happened? And so for him, you know, you experience what you're not, so you can experience who you are. And I really truly, you know, connect with that.
Yeah, I used to have his have all three books in this really beautiful like hardcover book, and then we moved over east, and it was in the trailer like in a box and stuff, and it got all flooded, and my copy got ruined. But I've got like the Kindle versions and stuff. Haven't read them for a few years. I have to get back in because
I haven't. Years, and I haven't read them for a while, but they're the three books that always just sticking to me, and I'm like, I really enjoy it. But I'm like you, I listen to Audible. I've got so many books. Total nerd, yes.
Me too. He's got a fourth book, like a fourth one in the series now too. That I think it's called Book 4, but I haven't read that yet. I've got it. It's just there's so many books.
It is.
And what profession other than you own would you love to attempt?
Right now, let me say this. If I could put being a speaker, having my own creative trauma center, coaching, writing. I love to write. If I could put all that together, that's it. I don't want to do anything else. I'm loving the whole space that I'm in. If I could just maybe broaden it, but otherwise this would be it. This would be it for me. Coaching and yeah, just being conscious and contributing and being in this space. That would be it. If I could fully be in this space in all those different areas that I love and I could bring them all together, then that's it.
It's so rewarding and so fulfilling. I'm the same. I love it.
Yeah.
And then room, which would you clean first? Your room, your desk, or your car?
Definitely not my car.
Me neither.
I don't want anyone to see my car at the moment. I got kids. You've got kids, Marla. You know what the cars are like. So let's just leave the car out of this. Yeah. It would be definitely the room.
Yeah.
I'm a macro person, so it has to be from the outside in. So I'd be like the room first, and then I'd come to the computer, and then I'd just.
So funny. I'm actually, lots of people say room. I would clean my desk first. My desk is like my go-to. I just love to have that neat above anything else.
I love it.
I don't know why. Yeah. So my little sacred place when all the kid stuff is everywhere and thrown around. If my little office and my desk is neat, I'm like, at least there's that.
Yeah. And I suppose the room, I mean, because I'm it would just be, I suppose I have to see what I'm seeing around me has to be tidied away, and then I can get balance, and then I'll come to this little area. And on my desk I hardly have anything, to be honest. I have a little books and my computer, and that's it. It's like don't go near this tiny little space. That's mine.
Yeah. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how weird are you?
Oh my God, best question ever. Okay, this is really funny because I've been called weird my whole life.
Yeah.
Literally. And my mother, so I've always been a very deep feeling person, empathic maybe, I don't know, and always been able to connect to people. And my mother said, when you were 5 years of age, you were always saying weird things to people that it would freak them out, and I was like, what do you mean? She said, you were always, and people have always called me weird. So I'm going to say, for people who are not on the conscious journey, that they would think that I'm a 10. They would think that I'm really weird. And obviously people who can relate to me and vibing on my level and conscious and on the journey to serve and lead, then I would say 1 or 2. Could you get me? You get my language.
Yeah. And I just realized that I have another call in 10 minutes, but we still got 10 minutes. So I got the times wrong. Thankfully I'm grateful for calendars, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So what do you wish you'd known when you started out?
That life is, let me think about this one. Life is sequential, yes. That we have to go through things in our life to really understand what we don't want to what we do want. And it's needed for us to truly be who we're wanting to be, like to be fully free and embodied and really truly stepping into what we want to do in our life and who we want to be in our life. That it has to unfold. Life has to unfold, and not to sort of focus too much on time and trying to get there, and just to allow everything to unfold and be, even though this can be really difficult sometimes, because if we're going through difficult times, we always want to get there or stop whatever it is that we're feeling. And I think what I've really learned to love is the unknown, and just allowing whatever is supposed to unfold. And I truly believe is how you respond to something. You know, if something is happening, it's how you respond to something, not what it is you're responding to, but how you choose to respond from it. So I think for me it would be not always trying to get there, really enjoy the present moment, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable. Just be in the each moment. So yeah, I think that would be it. Just to slow it down and not try to keep getting there.
I love that. That's beautiful. And if you could remove all barriers and constraints on it, what would you want to be known for, or what project would you want to work on?
Because the one thing that comes dear to my heart would be setting up like rehabilitation centers for trauma and traffic victims around the world.
Wow.
Like to bring that into fruition, and to bring and those centers would incorporate all my learning and the creativity and the different forms of trauma to support people. So for me, if I could have 5 centers around the world, then that would be, God, I'd be so grateful and blessed, to be honest.
Wow, that's so heartwarming. I love that. And what's the best compliment you've ever received?
It's going to have to be, sadly, well, not sadly, but it's going to have to definitely be from my kids, because they no one has loved me like my kids love me. And I suppose and I remember it, and they said to me that they were just so blessed and happy that I was their mum, that they wouldn't want any other mum. And I swear nothing, because it's real, and it's people can say everything to you in life, but when children talk to you, it's real, and they just said, you're the best mum. We would never want anyone else to be your mum. We're just so happy.
My gosh, hits right in the heart. That's and in terms of your work, what's one thing that your work's done for someone you didn't expect?
That I saved their life.
Wow.
That they would have been dead if they hadn't connected with me. So.
Wow. And what does elevating your life and soul mean to you?
Okay, so this would be, if you say elevating your life and soul, let's talk about you for a minute, okay? So when I met you, oh my gosh, you are about elevating people's soul and life. Your energy has always been so incredibly beautiful. So I would say, when you're saying that to me now, I'd think of you and I'd say, you are.
Thank you.
Elevated. You are. But, for me, constantly, you're never going to get there. You shouldn't ever want to get there. You should always be curious and playful, inquisitive, and just keep growing and learning and messing up, failing, growing. So for me, that is it. It's the never-ending journey of just connecting and being.
Yeah, it is. I so connect with that. And it's beautiful. The journey is so beautiful.
Even the difficult ones, because even when we go through something difficult, it's so painful and traumatic at the time, but afterwards you're like, wow, look, I get to see that perspective, and I learned that, and you find out something a little bit different about yourself.
Yeah, like I personally don't really believe in failure, because I believe in its own way, failure is always success, because you learn something and you grow from it, and that's such a gift, even if it doesn't seem like it.
Or even if it seems cliche, you know what I mean? It is exactly that. You learn every time. Every time I've gone through something difficult in my life, afterwards I've gone, oh my gosh, like if I look at where I was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, today, I love who I am. I love what I've experienced. I've loved all the the crazy things that I've done wrong. I'm like, oh my gosh, but I wouldn't be who I am today, and I wouldn't have that knowing or knowledge of what I've experienced. So I'm grateful for everything.
Mm,
Literally, that sounds really cliche, but I'm so grateful for everything I've experienced.
mm.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah.
I agree. And what's something, is there anything you wish I'd asked that I didn't ask?
No, no, I think we're good. I think we're good.
Okay.
I've enjoyed the conversation. I think it's
Me
been,
too. And
yeah.
what have you got? What are you offering to the world, or where can people find you? I mean, I'll put stuff in the show notes, but what
Yep.
is there anything you've got going on right now?
Well, I've got my Metamorph program, which is a 5-month program,
Mm-hmm.
which sort of incorporates, everything we've talked about today, working on the different sort of layers of ourselves. So I've
Mm-hmm.
Metamorph. My website is thelifemasterymethod.com.
Mm-hmm.
I do, one-on-one coaching and different programs, and all based around what we've talked about today, and
Yeah.
really choosing to choose you and face off with yourself and,
Mm.
find
That's such
freedom.
such important work, and you're such, like, to me, you were just such the epitome of like transformation and stuff, because like I've seen you transform so deeply in such beautiful ways, like through knowing you. So you really
Yes.
live this work. Um,
Live. Yeah.
you
Live,
really
breathe,
do.
love. I care
Um,
deeply. Yeah. Yeah. I care
mm,
deeply about people. And I suppose the one thing I would know is the reason I really went into this work is if I can get through this, then I realize that just showing someone else that they can actually do this, they can actually get through
mm,
any difficult situation, and they can find personal freedom, and really
yeah,
this it's always about the self-love, self-worth journey, isn't it, Marla?
it
It's
is. It's just, it
it's
really is. It's so foundational. I really believe it's, self so foundational, and for me it really starts with just accepting who you are, and then that to me is the start, because then you can drop into the actual loving yourself, and you know
yeah,
more and more and more,
be
go deeper and deeper, and then yeah.
forgiving yourself. Forgiveness is huge. Forgiving yourself and just being who you are. I totally
Mm,
agree.
yeah.
Totally agree.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
talking to you. It's been way too long, and I am so grateful and happy
Yeah.
that we got to do
No, we
this
off.
today.
Oh yeah, I can talk now. Like, you've got a little bit more. Yeah, it's been lovely talking to you.
Yeah.
It
Well,
really
thank you
has.
so
Yeah.
much.
So, and if I hope it's all right. When you're on the spot, you kind of like, it's a little bit different when you're on the spot, because I wanted to be a little bit more authentic. So I didn't really go into the questions. I just saw them. I went, okay, that's who it
Yeah.
is. So
It's
if you
been
need,
amazing. So
if that's
thank
hopefully you got
you.